Today we're going to work on our mad religion skills. The test writers, as I'm looking at their things, they're obsessed with, obviously, with space and region, but also how this is connected to ethnicity and diffusion. So we're going to be talking a lot about that in the next two chapters. Okay? Alrighty. Where are the world's religions distributed? All right. I hope this is going to follow me. You swear a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to be looking at the map, and you're going to have to know the basic places where things are. If we go chronologically, Hinduism is the oldest, and it's been contained by geography, by intervening obstacles, the Himalayas to the north, ocean to the south, and it's an ethnic religion. They just never were too concerned about everybody joining. They're not universalizing. And while we'll stay in the east, Buddhism starts up here in Nepal, India. It's technically Nepal, but it was India at the time. And since Hinduism is already established, Buddhists come knocking on their door, and the Hindus say, sorry, I've already got a religion. It spreads to the eastern part of the world. So we're going to see it in China and East Asia, Southeast Asia. All right, now coming to our side of the world, Judaism is going to start in Southwest Asia. And it's interesting, the authors, you can tell they're old because they keep calling it the Middle East. We called it the Middle East because it was halfway to the east. So somewhere along the way during the Cold War, it got called Middle East, probably even before that. But Judaism is going to start here. Abraham says one God. Christianity is going to grow out of that. And then Islam is going to start in this area. And is also goes back to Abraham's teachings. All right. And then Christianity is going to diffuse through Europe. All right. And then as the Europeans spread out, they're going to take their version of Christianity with them, whether it's Catholicism or the Protestant or Protestantism, the Protestant side of it. And I'm not going to steal thunder of later slides. And we see Islam spreading where the Arab traders went through North Africa, East Africa, up into Central Asia, India. There's 150, well, no, more than that now, 200 million Muslims in India. And interestingly, Indonesia. And as we go on today, we'll talk a lot about space and region when we do that. Okay. Alrighty. So why do religions have distinctive distributions? I pretty much touched on it there. The Arabs were the traders and the Christians were the colonizers. Why do religions organize space in distinctive patterns? A lot of it has to do with their migration patterns of these ethnicities, okay? And why do territorial conflicts arise amongst religious groups? Hey, you've had people fighting over land and water since, time began, all right? So what you're gonna find is, God is on our side and God wants us to have this land, and the other side is saying, no, God's on our side and God wants us to have this land, and so we have conflicts. All right, and here, this is pretty much, I'm not going to steal Mr. Hillstrom's thunder, and I've pretty much talked about these things already. So you're up.
All right. Ready for my thunder. Okay. So this slide is showing us the adherents, like how many people practice this certain religion. And let's be honest, this is a little bit difficult, especially when you get into like folk religions, other religions. I mean, how exactly are they coming up with these numbers? There's this website called adherents.com. And I guess if you have the internet and you can log on and say, yes, I adhere to this religion, they can count you. But if you're a Hindu, you go to an isolated place where you practice your religion pretty much in isolation on your own. Christianity is pretty easy to count. I mean, as people walk through the door, people are counting them every Sunday, right? You have people that's their specific job is to count how many people, okay? But in general trends, general patterns, you see there's a lot of Christians. That number is shrinking in some places. In Europe, it's shrinking. Islam is growing. Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world at the moment. Okay, that could change. So, all right. So Mr. Wright talked to you about origins. Now we want to create strong mental maps of where these religions are and how they're separate. Okay. So he talked to you about Hinduism in India And you can see primarily that's the hearth, right? That's the beginning, that's where it starts. And we'll talk about ethnic versus universalizing religions later, okay? But Hinduism in India, okay? Islam is, I didn't go chronologically, sorry. Buddhism, okay? Buddhism you find mostly here in China. Then you'll see it down here, Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia, okay? Up here in Mongolia, it jumps over to North and South Korea, to Japan, okay? And then you have Christianity, right? Christianity starts in Southwest Asia, starts in the Middle East, okay? And then it spreads to Europe. Well, once it gets to Europe, all of those countries go out and they industrialize, they colonize, they missionize, and you can see how it spreads to North and South America, spreads to Sub-Saharan Africa, okay, Australia, and then up here even into Russia, okay? And then finally Islam, okay? So Islam, same kind of thing. The hearth is here in Southwest Asia, and then it spreads across Africa, and we'll talk about how it spreads and why it spreads in a later slide. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that these places, you have to kind of know where they are in general, but let's face it, they overlap, okay? If this was the 1850s and you lived in Ireland, you would be a Roman Catholic, and everyone around you would be Roman Catholic, okay? And that's all you would know, okay? But this is 2020, and what has happened since then is people have moved, right? Migration. And when they have relocation diffusion, they bring their language with them, they bring their religion with them, and that tends to influence the culture, right? And the people around them. Okay, so those ideas spread, they're different. Okay, here we're going to talk about the different branches of Christianity. So just like language, we have ways of subdividing religions so that we can focus on them a little more specifically. Okay, so if we're talking branches of Christianity, okay, so it begins, I'm not going to start at the beginning, I'm going to start when it really starts to spread. Okay, 3 main branches here. Okay, and then you have another division under that, which is like a sect. Okay, and so you have right here in Europe, you have Roman Catholicism. Okay, I tell my kids these are the OCs. They're the original Christians. Okay, and Roman Catholicism. Underneath Constantine becomes popular, his successor makes it law. So if you want to be a Roman citizen, there's a lot of benefits to being a Roman citizen, you have to be a Christian, okay? So Roman Catholicism starts here, okay? Now, eventually the Roman Empire falls. Around 330 AD, pretty much all of this starts to fall, it starts to become very feudal, and over here, Constantine moves the capital to Constantinople. Okay, when he moves the center, essentially the center of Christianity over here into Constantinople, there's arguments between the Pope, who's lost a lot of power, and the head priests. Okay, and what happens is you develop something called Orthodox Christianity, and we're going to talk later about Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, okay, types of Christianity, and you're going to see big differences, mostly in their architecture. Okay. And then fast forward in time to Wittenberg, Germany in 1517, okay? And you have the beginnings of so here's Germany, right? You get the beginnings of Protestantism, okay? That's the other branch. So you've got Roman Catholicism, you've got Orthodox, and you've got Protestantism. They call it Protestantism because they were protesting the practices of the Catholic Church. They didn't agree with it. So Martin Luther nails 95 Theses to the church in Wittenberg, Germany, and you have Protestantism. Okay? Having trouble talking today. So you're going to see diffusion as well, right? So where do these places migrate to? That's where you're going to find most Protestants. These guys, they settle South America, right? So you're going to see a lot of Roman Catholics in South America and so on. Oh, this is just showing you Lodi, okay? Lodi, we have all of these different denominations, okay? Oh, I forgot one. So we got branch, then denomination, and then sect, okay? And I've been very long-winded on this one. There's a lot to say. So Protestantism, lots of different denominations, right? So you could be Presbyterian or you can be evangelical. And during class, we talk about where these places are in Lodi. Mr. Wright will tell you about how many churches there are in Lodi. We're pretty exceptional.
So Lodi has the bragging rights of more churches per capita than any other city in the country. All right, and so if you go to other places, you're going to go, there's not as many different churches. In Lodi, they're mostly, if you look at our settlers, the Lutherans were the originals, and that's Germanic. All right, Baptist is probably the second biggest, well, in the number of churches, but really the Catholics have the most people. They just use one building. They use St. Anne's, and they have several masses, and we'll talk more about that later. But here, what we're going to talk about is regions and space in the United States. If you see this question on the map, they're going to ask you questions about the hearth of a religion. And Mr. Hillstrom was talking about the hearth or the beginning of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, those different ones. You know, he said the beginning, and they used the word hearth. And what we see here in the United States is up here you have Irish and Italian immigrants, quite a few of them. The Northeast is very Catholic. And then you can see in the West and Southwest, Catholicism is still very big because of Latin American immigrants, all right? And obviously the hearth of Christianity is in Southwest Asia, okay? Now what's interesting is I knew the South was very Baptist, and you see Methodists all over, and I was like, you know, but these people were coming from a lot from Northern England, and I just didn't quite get it. So what they talk about in the Test Rider book is that this area gets, you know, it's called a burnt over district when people are just on fire about the religion. You see an early one in the 1800s up in New York, which we're going to talk about. But baptism's big in the South. It started in England, Southern England, with John Calvin, and then the Methodist starts in Southern England with John Wesley. So that would be the hearth. And it's not those people. They just came over and started preaching in America, and it caught on big here. What's big about the Baptist Church is what we call it is an autonomous religion, meaning it's grassroots. The decisions are made at the congregation level, all right? Muslims are the same way. They hire their own clergymen. So for the Baptists, it would be a minister, a pastor. For the Muslims, it would be an imam. But right now we're talking about Baptists. Okay, and then as we get up in the north, what have they got here? That's not Black Protestant, that's for sure. All right. Oh, the Lutherans. The map color is kind of funky. We should have a lot of Lutherans up here in the areas of the Dakotas and Minnesota. All right. This blue area out here is the Mormon West, Latter-day Saints. All right. They started in Western New York and they kept moving west. And I'm actually reading a biography right now, and they were talking about how they would go to an area and everybody liked them when they were a small number. It's like, well, they're kind of different and strange. But then as their number grew, they wanted to really implement their laws and way of life. You know, they wanted a, you know, strict Christian culture. So as their numbers grew, they got pushed out. The men would get shot, murdered. And so finally, after bad times in Illinois and Missouri, they headed out to the west. I got 1 minute? Okay. All right. So, you know, they're going to ask you about generalizations of a region, okay? They'll ask about South Carolina saying it's Baptist, all right? You know, they're looking, or they'll say the Southeast is Baptist. Then they'll go down to South Carolina, a smaller region, it's Baptist. But then they get down to county levels, it's majority Baptist, but now you start seeing other religions, okay? So they'll ask you a question like that.